Algebra, here is the last review video I'm going to do. Remember, I'm not going to do one for chapters 11 and 12 because you just took a test on chapter 11 and 12, and you can check those review videos out. I'm just doing the things that we haven't done in a while. All right, so let's check this out. Chapter 10, talking quadratics. We need to solve these equations and give exact answers. I'm combining two ideas at once here, solving the equation and then simplifying the rad and giving exact form. So we'll see here that first on this problem here, x squared minus 50 equals 0. I'll get x squared equal to 50, and then I'll need to take the square root of each side, right, or simplify the rad in other words. And so x is going to equal, let's see, 50 is going to break down into 5 times 2. A pair of 5s can go out of the house on one date, and we'll have rad 2 left in the house. Washing is here. Okay, if we're actually solving, we're going to call this plus or minus, just like in the quadratic formula. If we're just simplifying a rad, then we'll only use the positive. Remember, the rad is the positive square root. Okay, the next one is 81, x squared equals 16. First thing I'm going to do is divide each side by 81. I don't believe that there are any common factors in 16/81. I'm checking mentally, I don't see any. So I'm going to have x squared equals 16 over 81. If I could simplify it, I would. I can't, so I'll take the square root of both sides. But I'm going to recall that the square root of 16 over 81 is the same as square root of 16 over the square root of 81. Square root of 16, of course, is 4, and then 9. So x is going to equal to plus or minus 4/9. And again, it's I'm solving, so I'm giving the positive and negative answer. If I was just simplifying the rad, I would only give the positive answer. All right, this one here, I've got x squared equal to 700. How did I do that? I added 700 to each side. And then I'm going to take the square root of each side. And I know that's going to be 7 times 100. I know that rad 100 is 10. So x is going to equal plus or minus 10 rad 7. There you go. All right. X squared equals 2700. Take the square root of each side. And if I go 27 times 100, this will be 10 times 10. This is 3 times 9, which is like that. That's prime, that's prime, that's prime. These aren't prime, but there is a pair of them. So I'm going to let a pair of 10s leave the house. I'm going to let a pair of 3s leave the house. So I'm going to have 10 times 3 outside the house. Inside the house, there's only going to be a 3 left. But a better answer is simply going to be 30 rad 3. Oops, not rad 30, 30 rad 3. And again, it's plus or minus. All right, now let's see if I can erase that. Okay, so if you want to check that, by the way, you can square 30 squared, and get 900, and then multiply it by 3. 0, 0, 9 times 3 is 27. And notice that that number matches the 2700. So I know I did it correctly. Of course, some of you are thinking, I'll just use the quadratic formula, and it's okay to use quadratic formula. The only reason I wouldn't use it is time. Okay, now on these problems, if I could factor them, I would. I don't believe they're going to factor, so I'm going to go ahead and use the quadratic formula, especially since the directions say use the quadratic formula. Remember, it's negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that is all over 2a, and of course x equals that. All right, now remember, it might be smart to do the discriminant first because it'll tell you how many solutions there's going to be. The discriminant is this part of the quadratic formula you'll recall. Right here, b squared minus 4ac. So you might want to do that. So let me see here. A is 6, b is negative 5, and c is 1. All right, so b squared is going to be 25 minus 4 times 6 times 1, which is 25 minus 24. So the b squared minus 4ac part comes to be 1. There's going to be two solutions. Remember, if it equaled 0, I'd get one solution. And if it was a number less than 0, a negative, I would get no solutions. All right, so now I'm going to do the negative of b, which will be 5, plus or minus square root of 1. Notice, because I already did the discriminant right here, I didn't waste my time doing it all again. I have to go 2 times 6. Okay, this is x, and I'm expecting two solutions. So I'm going to get x equals 5 plus or minus 1 over 12. So x is going to equal 6/12, which is the same as 1/2. Or x is going to equal 5 minus 1, which is 4/12, which simplifies to 1/3. So x equals 1/2 or 1/3. And there are your solutions. All right. This one might have factored, looking in hindsight, but it's okay that it didn't, that I did the quadratic formula. Okay, again, on this one, I'm going to do the discriminant first. So a is 7, b is 1, c is 3, right? Okay, so the discriminant b squared is going to be 1 minus 4 times 7 times 3. So we get 1 minus, let's see here, that'd be 21, 84, negative 83. Okay, I got a discriminant of a number less than 0. I can stop. There's no solution. I'm not going to waste my time going into the quadratic formula because there's no solution. All right, the discriminant told me so. All right, let's see what's next here. Graphing. Kind of need some graph paper for these. But before I actually go to my graph paper, I'm going to remember that x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac whole thing over 2a. And I'm going to remember that this part here is the discriminant. It'll tell me how many times the graph crosses the x-axis, right? And this part right here will be the x-coordinate of the vertex, the highest or lowest point of this graph. Now, on this particular one, I actually see it's going to factor into y equals x plus 4, which you cannot read, so let me try that again. Quantity x plus 4 times quantity x minus 4, which means that x is going to equal negative 4 or 4. Those are the places the graph is going to cross the x-axis. So now that I know that, I can pull up my graph paper. There we go. What did I get? 4 and negative 4? Yeah, so sorry about that. I got distracted momentarily. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, because of symmetry, I know that the axis of symmetry is going to be the y-axis. Whoa. Okay, it's not an asymptote. It's a axis of symmetry. But if I wanted to, I could use the highlighted green part, negative b over 2a. So I could put a would equal 1, B would equal 0, and C would equal negative 16. Now you see why I did that, because a lot of you would have said B was negative 16 and C was 0. Remember, it's B is the coefficient on X. All right, so if I plug 0 into the equation here for the X coordinate of the vertex, my Y coordinate is negative 16. So this guy is going to graph, let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, down here. All right. So this is hard to do with the airliner pen. I apologize. Oh, I missed it. That's pretty bad. But you guys get the point. Oh my gosh, that's even worse. All right. Fortunately, pen and paper, you can do a much better job than that. All right, let's try this one. Now, the first thing I'm going to notice is that this is an inequality, which means I'm going to get a broken parabola, right? Something like that. Okay. Now, remember, I know it's going to open positive because A is positive. If A were negative, then it would open downward, right? All right, and C is negative 2. This one's not going to factor pretty. Okay, so I'm going to go to the quadratic formula. So X equals negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC. The whole thing is over 2A. Okay, so then X is going to equal square root of 8, which is the same as 2 rad 2 divided by 2. Plus or minus, of course. Now, if you're noticing here, I can cancel out these 2's, and I'll be left with plus or minus the square root of 2. That is where it's going to cross the x-axis. So let me get another graph here. Move it over here. Okay. So square root of 2 is approximately 1.41, and then we get the negative of it. Okay. And again, my vertex can be found by doing negative b over 2a. I know in this case it's going to be at 0. And when x is 0, y is going to be negative 2. And so it's going to look like that. Okay, and this one might be a little bit easier. Now it's going to be broken. Okay. Now, there's one more thing, because of the inequality, there's going to be shading. And remember, to find out the shading is, I'm going to use a test point. And because the parabola does not go through the origin, I will use that as my test point. I will plug 0, 0 in for the original equation. 0 is less than 0 minus 2. 0 is less than negative 2. That is not a true statement. I will not shade where my test point is. Instead, I'll shade everything underneath on the outside of the parabola. All right, hopefully this is bringing back a lot of memories. Of course, you can always go back and look at old videos from chapter 10. You can pull out your textbook and go to the chapter review for the different chapters. You can do the problems on your review sheet, etc., etc., etc. All right, Mr. Lawrence signing off, I think. Oh, no, I've got one more problem. I fooled you. Remember this equation, h equals negative 16 t squared minus plus or minus v sub o t plus s, right? Okay, where h is the ending height, s is the starting height, v sub o is the original velocity, and t is the time in seconds. All right, so this problem says a ball is launched up or off the ground with initial velocity of 30 meters per second. So the starting height is 0. So h is going to equal negative 16 t squared plus 30t, and it's plus 0. All right, now I want to factor this or use the quadratic formula to find out when it's going to hit the ground. And I think factoring is going to work really well. So I'm going to set h equal to 0. And I'm going to pull a GCF out. It looks like I'm going to pull out, I think a 2t is it. 4 doesn't go in, 8 doesn't go in. Yeah, 2t. And that's going to leave me with a negative 8t plus 15. All right, so I'm going to solve both these parts for 0. This part for 0 and this part for 0. So the first part is easy. I'm going to get t equals 0. Oops, not 2, 0. All right, well, that's where the ball starts on the ground. So it's going to start on the ground right there at 0. Okay, but now I have to do negative 8t plus 15 equals 0. And then I'm going to get negative 8t equals negative 15. And then t is going to equal 15 which won't simplify. I can turn it into a mixed number, get a better feel for it. It's going to be just shy of 2. It's going to be 1 7/8 seconds. Okay, now I could use the quadratic formula, but I saw factoring was an easier way to go on this one. All right, so it's going to hit the ground again in 1 7/8 seconds, just shy of 2 seconds. Now, how high is it going to go? That's a vertex question. Remember, for vertex, I need x equal to negative b over 2a. Well, in this problem, a is negative 16, b is 30, c would be 0, but it's not relevant to the problem. All right, so I'm going to do negative 30 over 2 times negative 16. And in this case, it would be t instead of x, but that's a minor detail. I'm going to get 30 over 32. You're probably wondering what happened to the negatives. I canceled them out. And 30 over 32 is going to simplify into 15/16. So it's going to reach the maximum height just shy of 1 second. But the question is, how high does it go? Well, I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to do h is going to equal to negative 16 over 1 times 15 squared over 16 squared. And I'm doing a little cheat here. You can use your calculator and punch it in a different way. 30 over 1 times 15/16. And if you wanted to just go right to your calculator, I don't have a calculator in front of me, you would go negative 16 times 15/16 squared plus 30 times 15/16. And you could have plugged that in. Okay, so all right, so now you see these? That can cancel with that. And so what I'm going to have is I'm going to have 225 over 16. Okay, now over here I can do some simplifying. Actually, I don't think I want to simplify because I like that common denominator 16. So I'm going to call that 450 over 16. Okay, so I got 450 minus 225. All right, it's going to be 5. 225 over 16. All right, now that answer doesn't really make any sense. So at this point, I can go to a calculator. Let's see, where is my calculator here? I thought I had one open, but maybe I don't. So I'm going to do 225 divided by 16. And I'm going to get, it's going to go about 14 feet, just a little bit over 14 feet. 14 6/100 would be the answer. All right, I think that is definitely it for this video. Any questions, come see me. Remember, I'll offer help Tuesday after school. I can't do it Wednesday. I'm sorry. I have a doctor's appointment. And Thursday morning is D-Day. Time for the final. All right, Mr. Lawrence signing off. Good night, everybody.